The sky above Virelia was no longer blue. It had turned to gray, thick with clouds and smoke. Fires still burned in far corners of the city, and the air smelled like metal and dust. Buildings that once reached the clouds were now broken. Roads were cracked and filled with silence. Alara stood on the balcony of her small home, high on the hill above the old market. Her hands held the edge of the railing tightly. Her eyes were fixed on the dark sky. It had been like this for days, ever since the war reached the heart of Virelia. She had not slept. Not really. Only short moments of rest, eyes closed, mind racing. Her thoughts were only of one person, Mira, her daughter, her bright, clever, stubborn daughter. Mira had joined the Virelian Defense Corps a few weeks before the enemy fleet arrived. She was young but strong in spirit. She had wanted to help. She believed their people had to stand together to protect their world. Alara had tried to stop her, but Mira had already signed the papers. "I can't just sit here while others fight," Mira had said. Alara had nodded slowly and watched her daughter walk away in uniform, her heart full of fear. That was the last time she saw her. Now, Alara waited for a signal, a call, a message, anything. Inside the home, a small round screen blinked with a soft green light. Alara stepped inside and pressed the panel. The screen turned blue for a moment, then showed a broken image. A face appeared. It was Mira. Her daughter's face was dusty. Her cheeks had smudges of dirt. Behind her, the ground shook with noise. Mira shouted something, but the sound cut out. Her lips moved quickly. Then there was a loud crack. The screen jumped. Sparks flew across the image. Alara leaned close and touched the screen. "Mira," she whispered. The screen froze for a second. Then it turned black. The signal never came back. Later that evening, the local guard came to her door. Alara opened it with shaking hands. The captain stood there, helmet under his arm, his expression calm but tired. "We have no more signals from the west sector," he said. Alara stared at him, heart sinking. There was heavy fire. No rescue units were able to reach the post. "I'm sorry. Your daughter is listed as missing, possibly lost during the collapse of the outer station." She didn't cry. Not at that moment. She thanked him, shut the door gently, and sat down on the floor. The silence was heavier than any sound. The days passed slowly after that. People in the city tried to move forward. They rebuilt what they could. Some returned to their work. Children played in the safer parts of the streets. But Alara stayed quiet. She cooked simple meals. She listened to old recordings of Mira's voice. She walked to the balcony each evening, hoping for some light in the sky that might bring news. Rumors started to spread across the city. Strange ones. In the ruined outer sectors far from the center, someone was seen walking alone. A tall figure wearing no armor, carrying no weapons. People said it was a human, not one of the invaders, but someone lost during the battle. Some said he helped injured people. Others said he was looking for someone. Some even claimed they saw him carrying a Virelian girl in his arms. But no one had a name. No one had proof. Alara heard the rumors but did not listen at first. Her heart was already tired. She had seen too many false hopes, too many stories that ended in sorrow. But then, one night, as she sat in the quiet room, the screen blinked again. A stranger's voice spoke. "If anyone finds this," the voice said, "I need help. She's still breathing. I won't leave her. I don't know your language well, but she does. She saved me. Please, help. The voice was human. The picture was unclear, but for a second, Alara saw a figure kneeling beside a smaller one, wrapped in a silver blanket. A pale hand reached out from the blanket. A soft voice whispered something. Alara leaned in close. Her heart pounded. The voice in the recording said a name. Mira. The message ended. Alara stood still for a long time. Then she moved quickly. She packed a small bag, wrapped herself in a long cloak, and left her home. She walked through quiet streets, past broken buildings, toward the edge of the city, toward the outer sectors. Her mind raced with questions. Could it be real? Was her daughter alive? Who was this human? Why was he helping her? She had no answers. Only one thought kept her going. If her daughter was still out there, she would find her. Far across the city, under the shadows of fallen towers, the human walked slowly through the ruins. His steps were heavy. His face was tired. But in his arms, he held Mira, wrapped gently. Her breathing was soft. Her eyes were closed. He looked up at the sky and whispered, "Just a little longer. Stay with me." He kept walking, each step forward a promise that he would not let her go. The ruins of the outer sectors stretched far across the dusty land. Cracked metal towers leaned against each other like fallen trees. Wind carried the smell of ash and old smoke. Most people stayed away from these broken places. There was nothing left there except silence and old memories. But someone moved through those ruins. Someone different. He was tall and strong, though his steps were uneven. His clothes were worn, torn at the edges, marked with dirt and old burns. His name was Tomas. He was human. Not from Virelia, not from any of the nearby planets. He had come with a supply ship before the war reached this part of space. His job had been simple. He fixed engines and systems. He was not a soldier. He never planned to be part of a war. When the attack began, his ship was caught in the crossfire. It fell from the sky and crashed near the edge of the western station. Thomas had survived the crash but woke up with no map, no help, and no way to return. Days passed as he moved through the rubble, searching for shelter, food, anything that could keep him alive. That was when he met her. He had been lying under a broken roof, barely awake. Dust filled the air. His leg was hurt, and he could not stand. He thought he was going to fade away. Then he heard footsteps, light and careful. A shadow appeared over him. A soft voice asked something in a language he didn't know. He looked up and saw her, a girl in a broken Varelian uniform. Her eyes were sharp but kind. She knelt beside him and touched his shoulder. She looked scared, but she didn't run. Over the next days, the girl, Mira, came back again and again. She brought small pieces of food, helped clean his wounds, and tried to speak to him. At first, they didn't understand each other, but slowly, with signs and simple words, they began to talk. Thomas learned her name. He pointed to himself and said, "Thomas." She repeated it and smiled. It was the first time he had smiled since the crash. Mira told him her people thought the war was over in that area. She had been hiding since the station fell. She was hurt too, but she still helped him. She taught him a few Varelian words. Thomas taught her some human words in return. They stayed hidden in a quiet corner of the broken station. The sound of ships and patrols passed above them sometimes, but Mira kept them safe. She knew the tunnels. She knew where to go and where not to go. One night, the sky turned dark with clouds again. Rain began to fall, cold and heavy. Mira became sick. Her breathing grew weak. She stopped speaking much. Thomas wrapped her in a silver blanket he had found and stayed by her side. She needed real help now. She needed care, medicine, warmth. Thomas knew he had to move. Even if he didn't know the land well, he had no choice. So he lifted Mira in his arms and started walking. His legs still hurt, but he kept going, one step at a time. His arms were tired, but he did not stop. Along the way, he passed broken signs, fallen walls, and dark streets. Sometimes he saw other people in the shadows. They watched him, unsure. Some called out, asking who he was. Some ran away when they saw he was human. He tried to speak. "Help," he said. "Girl sick. Need help." Most did not answer. He reached an old checkpoint and found a small machine still working. He recorded a message and sent it out across the network, hoping someone would hear. "If anyone finds this," he said, "I need help. She's still breathing. I won't leave her. Please, help." Now, the sun was rising slowly. Light touched the broken glass around him. Mira stirred in his arms. Her eyes opened just a little. She looked up at him and tried to speak. He smiled and bent close to her. "You're still here," he whispered. She moved her fingers slightly and whispered. Cold Thomas looked around. There was an old shelter ahead. It had no doors, but there might be something inside. He walked toward it and stepped over the broken entrance. Inside, it was quiet. Dust floated in the air. He placed Mira down gently on a soft corner of old cloth and covered her well. He looked through boxes and found a small heater that still worked. He turned it on and placed it near her. The soft warmth made her sigh and close her eyes again. Thomas sat beside her. His arms ached, his legs felt heavy, but he was calm. He had brought her this far. He would not stop now. Outside the shelter, a new sound moved through the air. Light steps, careful footsteps. Alara had reached the outer sectors. She followed the path of the signal, walking through the ruins with her cloak tight around her. Her eyes searched every corner. Her heart beat fast. She saw signs of movement, footprints in the dust. A piece of silver cloth caught on metal. She stepped forward, with hope in her chest. The human was close, and he was not alone. Alara moved carefully through the ruins. The early light of morning shone through the broken walls and crumbled roofs. Dust floated in the air like soft snow. Every step she took brought old memories back. She remembered walking these streets, with Mira when the city was still whole. Now only echoes remained. She followed the signs. A small piece of silver cloth, a trail of footprints in the ash, faint but fresh. Someone had been here not long ago. Alara's heart beat faster. She held her cloak close and listened. Far ahead, a small sound broke the silence. It was not loud, but clear enough. A quiet cough, followed by a soft voice. Alara moved toward it, her hands shaking. She stepped over fallen wires and broken glass. Her eyes searched every corner. Then she saw him. A man sat near a small heater inside an old shelter. His clothes were torn and his face looked tired. But what caught Alara's eyes was the girl lying beside him, wrapped in a silver blanket, her face pale but peaceful. Mira. Alara gasped. Her knees almost gave way. She stepped forward without thinking. The man turned quickly. His eyes were alert. He stood in front of Mira protectively, his arms half raised as if ready to shield her. But when he saw Alara, something in his expression changed. He didn't speak. He only stepped aside slowly. Alara rushed forward and knelt beside her daughter. She touched Mira's hand. It was warm. Weak, but warm. "Mira," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Can you hear me?" Mira's eyes opened slightly. She looked at her mother and blinked. Her lips moved, trying to speak. A small sound escaped. "Mother." Tears filled Alara's eyes. She held Mira's hand tightly. The world around her faded. For a moment, it was only the two of them. No ruins, no war, only love. After a while, Alara looked up at the man. She studied him. His eyes were kind, though tired. His arms were scratched. He had clearly been through much. But he had not left her daughter behind. He had carried her through the ruins, kept her safe, risked everything. "You're the human," Alara said softly. Thomas nodded. He didn't speak right away. Then he said, "She helped me first." Alara was quiet for a long time. She looked back at Mira. Her daughter's breathing had steadied. The heater's warmth was helping. The girl was alive, still fragile but fighting. A soft sound outside made Thomas look toward the doorway. Alara heard it too. Voices, movement. A moment later, a group of Varelian guards entered the shelter. Their uniforms were dusty, but their posture was firm. They had followed Alara's signal. The lead guard saw the human and reached for his communicator. "Human located," he said quickly. "He's with a young Varelian girl." Another guard stepped forward and raised a scanner toward Thomas. Alara stood up and blocked their path. "Wait," she said. "He saved her. He brought her here." "He's still a human," the lead guard replied. "We don't know his purpose. He could be dangerous." "I know what he is," Alara said calmly. "He's the reason my daughter is alive." The guards looked uncertain. They glanced at Mira, then at Thomas. The scanner showed no threat, no weapons, no tracking device. Just an injured man carrying a sick girl. "We will report this," the lead guard said, lowering the scanner. "But we will not harm him." Alara nodded. "He's coming with us," she said. "Both of them need medical care." The guards hesitated, but agreed. They helped Thomas to his feet and gently lifted Mira onto a light stretcher. Alara walked beside her daughter the entire time, never letting go of her hand. Thomas followed quietly. He didn't ask for anything. He didn't speak unless spoken to. His eyes stayed on Mira, watching every breath, every small movement. As they walked through the ruins, people appeared in doorways and behind walls, survivors hiding among the broken buildings. They watched the group pass. Some gasped when they saw the human. Others whispered quietly. No one had seen a human walking peacefully beside Varelians before. No one had seen one carry a Varelian, child through danger just to save her. By the time they reached the edge of the city, the sun was high. A small medical unit waited near a rebuilt wall. The medics rushed forward to examine Mira. They placed her in a clean bed and gave her the care she needed. One of them offered to check Thomas, but he shook his head. "I'm fine," he said, though his voice was weak. Alara sat beside Mira's bed, holding her daughter's hand. She looked at Thomas, who sat in the corner quietly, watching. She stood up and walked over to him. "You could have left her," Alara said. "You could have gone your own way, but you didn't." "She found me first," Thomas replied. She saved me when she didn't have to. I couldn't let her suffer alone. Alara sat down beside him. What do you want now? Thomas didn't answer right away. He looked out the window, where the sky was slowly turning blue again. I don't know, he said. I didn't plan any of this. I just wanted to keep a promise. Alara looked at him with quiet respect. She didn't need to ask what promise he meant. Outside the room, the wind had changed. The sounds of war had faded. And in the hearts of those who saw what the human had done, something had begun to shift. The air inside the recovery room was quiet, except for the soft hum of machines. Mira lay resting on a clean bed, her breathing slow but steady. Warm light came through the window, touching her face gently. Alara sat beside her, eyes never leaving, her daughter. Her hand held Mira's fingers, like she had when Mira was small. Across the room, Thomas sat with his back against the wall. His eyes were half closed, and his arms rested on his knees. He had not asked for sleep or food. He stayed because he didn't know where else to go. He had carried her for so long that sitting still now felt strange. Alara glanced at him from time to time. She had many questions, but she said nothing for now. All that mattered was that her daughter was alive. That thought still felt unreal. She had believed Mira was lost forever. Yet here she was, saved by someone no one expected. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. The door opened and two officers stepped in. They wore clean dark coats with silver lines on the sleeves. They looked serious, eyes scanning the room. One of them, a tall woman with short hair, stepped forward and nodded politely. I am Commander Leon, she said. I was told the human is here. Alara stood slowly. Yes, his name is Thomas. He's the one who brought my daughter back. Leon looked at Thomas. Her expression did not change. He will need to answer some questions. There are concerns. He is not registered with any Allied fleet. He was not cleared during the war. We need to understand his presence. Alara stepped between them. He is not a threat. He was stranded during the attack. He helped my daughter. He carried her through ruins while others stayed hidden. We respect your words, Leon replied, but our orders are clear. He must be taken in for questioning. It will be peaceful. He will not be harmed. Thomas stood up slowly. He raised his hand slightly to show he meant no trouble. I'll go, he said calmly. I understand Mira. Stirred. Her voice was weak but clear enough. No. Everyone turned toward her. Mira tried to sit up. Alara helped her gently. Mira looked at the officers, her face pale but steady. He saved me, she said. He gave me water, food, shelter. He never asked for anything. He didn't even speak my language, but he stayed. I'm alive because of him. Leon hesitated. She looked at Mira, then at Alara, then back at Thomas. Finally, she nodded. He will be treated with care. He is not under arrest, only questioned. For now, he will stay in the station under observation. Thomas gave a small nod. That's fair. Two guards entered, but they kept their distance. One handed Thomas a badge. Wear this. It shows your status. You are not a prisoner. Thomas clipped the badge to his torn shirt and looked at Mira one last time before leaving. She gave him a small smile. It was tired but full of meaning. Hours passed. The city around the recovery center was slowly coming back to life. People repaired walls, cleared streets, and planted small trees in open spaces. The war had taken much, but life was returning. Inside the station, Thomas sat in a quiet room. It was not a cell. The walls were clean. There was water, food, and even a soft bench. But he felt the eyes watching him. Cameras. Guards nearby. Still, he did not complain. He answered their questions simply. He told them about the crash, about wandering the ruins, about Mira finding him, about the long days of walking. Every word was calm, honest, clear. Some officers were surprised. Others were unsure how to react. No human had been seen in such a way before. Not like this. Commander Leon listened carefully. She asked only one question in the end. "Why didn't you leave her?" Thomas looked at her. His voice was quiet, but firm. "She didn't leave me. That's why, back in the medical room, Mira rested again. Alara stayed close. Nurses checked her pulse, her eyes, her breath. The doctors said her body was healing faster than expected. Hope had returned to her heart, and it gave her strength." Alara watched her daughter sleep. Then she stood up and walked, out of the room. She made her way through the station, past officers and workers, until she reached the observation area. Tomas sat alone behind a clear panel. Alara spoke to the guard who allowed her inside. Tomas looked up when she entered. Alara sat across from him. "I wanted to thank you again," she said. "I know you've heard it already, but thank you for not giving up on her." Thomas shook his head. "You don't need to thank me. I only did what I had to do." "You did more than that?" Alara replied. "You saved her when no one else could. You protected her, carried her. You risked everything. And now she's alive. Because of you." Thomas was quiet. He looked down at his hands. Then he said, "I didn't want to be part of any war. I only came here to fix machines. I thought I'd be here for 2 weeks. Then the sky fell. Everything changed." "You became part of our story," Alara said. "Even if you didn't want to be." Tomas smiled slightly. "She's a good person, brave, smarter than I'll ever be. She gave me reason to keep moving. I thought I'd never see sunlight again, but she gave me hope." Alara looked at him with gentle eyes. "You may not be from here, but this place owes you more than it knows." Outside, the sun shone brighter. Wind passed through the open windows, carrying the scent of green things growing. Again. Somewhere in the city, children laughed for the first time in months. The days after Tomas's arrival passed quietly. The war was over, but the city still felt the weight of what had happened. Tall towers were gone, roads were broken, and many homes were still empty. Yet something was returning. Peace. Not loud, not quick, but gentle and slow like the wind after a long storm. Inside the recovery center, Mira's condition improved. Her strength came back a little each day. She could sit up now, speak more clearly, and even walk a few steps with help. The doctors said she was healing faster than expected. Alara stayed by her daughter's side through every moment. Sometimes she brought soup or fresh fruit. Sometimes they just sat quietly together watching the light change on the wall. Mira often asked about Thomas. "Is he okay?" she asked one morning. Alara smiled. "He's resting in the station. The officers have more questions, but they treat him with care." Mira looked out the window. "He doesn't like questions. He likes doing things. He likes helping." Alara nodded. "That's clear to everyone now." Word about Thomas had begun to spread through the city, not just whispers, but real conversations. People in the market spoke about the human who carried a Varelian girl across broken streets. Workers at the rebuild sites mentioned the strange visitor with kind eyes. Children played games, pretending to be brave like the girl and the human who saved her. Inside the station, Thomas was no longer kept in the observation room. He was moved to a guest wing, simple but open and peaceful. There was a small bed, a table, and a clear view of the city. A guard walked by now and then, but not in a strict way. Thomas spent most of his time by the window. He watched people below rebuild homes and clean roads. He saw green plants starting to grow where fire once burned. The city was healing. So was he. Commander Leon came to speak with him again. This time there were no guards in the room. She sat across from him, her eyes less sharp than before. "We've spoken with our council," she said. "They want to hear your story directly. You don't need to be afraid. It's not a trial. It's a meeting." Tomas gave a small nod. "I'll go, but only if Mira is well enough." "She is getting stronger each day," Leon replied. "You should see her. She asks for you often." Tomas looked out the window once more. "She's the one who gave me hope when I had none." Leon stood up. "Sometimes it takes one good soul to remind us what peace really means." 2 days later, Tomas stood before the Varelian Council. The hall was large, with high windows and smooth stone walls. Council members sat in a half-circle, each one wearing a long robe with a symbol of peace on the chest. The room was quiet, respectful. Thomas did not dress in anything fancy. He wore a clean shirt given to him by one of the station workers. His face was calm, his eyes steady. Mira sat nearby in a special seat beside her mother. She was thinner than before, but her eyes were bright. She held her mother's hand tightly as Thomas stepped forward. A council member with silver markings on. His robe stood up. "You are Tomas, a human from the ship Halor 7. You arrived in our system as a repair specialist. You were not part of the conflict. Is that correct?" "Yes," Tomas replied. "I came to fix power systems. Nothing more." "You were found carrying a Varelian girl through the outer sectors after the final strike. She was in weak condition. You protected her even when your own health was in danger." "Why?" Thomas glanced at Mira, then looked back at the council. "Because she helped me first. I was buried in a broken building. I couldn't walk. I had no food. She found me. She gave me water. She risked her own life to save mine. I couldn't leave her behind. I wouldn't." Another council member asked, "You could have gone your own way. Found safety. Why carry her all that distance?" Thomas paused. "She reminded me of someone I once knew, someone brave and kind. I lost that person during a past storm on my own planet. I couldn't save her. When I saw Mira, I saw a second chance to do the right thing." The room stayed quiet for a long moment. Then Mira stood up. Her voice was quiet, but clear. "I was sure I would not survive. But Thomas stayed. Even when I could not walk, he carried me. Even when we had no food, he gave me the last of his. I am alive because of him. He didn't care what species I was. He saw me as a person who needed help. That is why I asked the council to honor him, not for saving me, but for showing us all that kindness is still alive in this galaxy." Alara stood beside her daughter. "He is more than a visitor. He is part of our story now," the council whispered quietly among themselves. After a few minutes, The lead council member stepped forward. "We cannot give you a full title or rank, Thomas, as you are not a citizen of Viralia. But we can offer you a place of peace, a home here if you wish, and we will share your story with the next generation. You are not a soldier, but your courage has helped heal the wounds of war. For that, we thank you." Thomas bowed his head. "I didn't come to be remembered. I only wanted to keep a promise, and I thank you for letting me be part of your world, even for a short time." After the meeting, Thomas walked outside. The sky was clear. Birds flew over the city for the first time in months. Mira walked beside him, slower than before, but smiling. Alara followed quietly, watching the two with soft eyes. For the first time since the war ended, the silence felt full of hope, not fear. The sun was warm as it rose over the city. Alara walked slowly through the recovering streets. Her steps were steady but quiet. The sound of rebuilding was all around. Her heart felt heavy and light at the same time. She was grateful for her daughters' survival, but knew the path ahead was uncertain. Mira sat on a bench nearby. She looked healthier now. Her cheeks had color again, and her eyes held a gentle brightness. She watched the people around her and smiled when a small child ran past her laughing. She reached out and touched Alara's hand softly. "Thomas will stay?" she asked quietly. Alara nodded. "Yes, the council has allowed it. They see what he has done and want him to be part of our future." Mira looked at the sky. "I want to learn about his world, his stars, his stories." Alara smiled. "And he will teach you if you want." The days grew warmer, and the city began to bloom slowly. Green shoots appeared in the cracked soil, and flowers opened their petals in soft colors. The war was over, but its shadow was still near. Some buildings were empty shells, but others were filled with hope and life. Thomas had been given a small room near the center of the city. It was simple, but clean. A bed, a table, and a few chairs. The walls were decorated with pictures Mira had drawn for him. Simple sketches of stars, ships, and new friends. Each morning, Thomas would visit Mira. He helped her practice walking, and sometimes he showed her small machines from his ship. He spoke slowly and carefully, teaching her words from his language. Mira listened with bright eyes and repeated after him. The bond between them grew stronger every day. It was a quiet friendship built on trust and kindness. Alara often watched them from a distance, feeling grateful. For this unexpected gift Thomas had given her family, one afternoon, Alara met with Commander Leon in the council chambers. The room was filled with light and plants. The war was discussed less now, but the work of healing and rebuilding was the main. "Focus, we must think about the future," Leon said firmly. "The war has changed everything. Our people need new leaders, new ideas. We cannot forget the pain, but we must find a way forward." Alara nodded. "My daughter's rescue shows that kindness can cross all borders. Even enemies can find common ground if they try." Leon looked thoughtful. "Perhaps this is a time for new paths, for alliances that were never dreamed of before." Outside the chambers, Thomas worked with a group of engineers fixing old power lines. He was patient and careful, explaining how to use tools and machines. Many had never seen human technology before. They listened eagerly. The sun began to set, casting golden light across the city. Thomas paused and looked at the horizon. The stars would soon appear. His thoughts went back to his home far away. But now this place felt important too. That evening, Thomas and Mira sat together watching the first stars of the night. Mira's hand rested gently on Thomas's arm. "Will you tell me more stories tomorrow?" she asked. Thomas smiled. "Yes, many stories about stars and hope and new beginnings." Alara stood nearby, watching them. She felt a quiet joy that words could not explain. The war was over, but the real journey was just beginning. The city woke slowly beneath soft morning light. Birds sang gently and fresh air moved through the streets. Buildings stood taller now, and laughter could be heard again from children playing. Thomas stood by the window of his small room, watching the scene with quiet hope. Mira was nearby practicing walking without help. Her steps were unsteady, but sure. She smiled brightly when Thomas cheered softly for her. She had come far from the weak girl he had carried through ruins. She was growing stronger each day. Alara sat in the garden behind the house. She watched her daughter and Thomas from a distance. Her heart was full of gratitude and peace. The war had taken much, but it had also brought something unexpected. A chance for new friendships and a fresh start. That morning, Thomas received a visitor. Commander Leon came with a gentle smile. She brought news from the council and a small gift wrapped in cloth. "We have thought much about your place here," she said. "The council has decided to offer you a chance to stay permanently if you wish, to help rebuild and bring new ideas." Thomas looked at the gift and then at Leon. "Thank you. I will think carefully. I did not come here looking for a new home. But this place and its people have become important to me." Leon nodded. "We understand. That is why we want to support your choice." Later, Thomas joined Mira and Alara outside. They walked together through the garden, watching flowers bloom and small animals return. The air was filled with the sweet scent of spring and soft warmth of the sun. Mira looked up at Thomas. "Will you stay with us?" she asked simply. Thomas smiled. "Yes, I will stay with you and your family and this city that is healing." Alara took Thomas's hand gently. "You are part of us now, more than a visitor, more than a stranger." The days turned into weeks, and the city continued to grow and heal. Thomas shared stories of distant worlds and strange stars. Mira learned new words and laughed at the funny sounds Thomas made when he tried to speak their language. Together, they planted trees in empty fields and helped build homes for those who had lost everything. Thomas taught young Varelians about machines and technology, and in return, they showed him their ancient traditions and songs. One evening, as the sun set in bright colors, Thomas, Mira, and Alara stood on a hill overlooking the city. The sky was painted in soft pink and orange, and the first stars began to shine. Mira leaned on Thomas's shoulder. "Thank you for saving me, for never giving up." Thomas looked at her warmly. "You saved me too. You gave me hope when I had none." Alara smiled and joined them. "This is only the beginning, a new dawn for all of us." The stars above shone quietly as a gentle wind moved through the grass. The city was alive with promise and peace. The war was behind them, but their story was just beginning.